Welcome back. Well, we will be talking about security, several demands across the country, and we've got Professor Femi Otubanjo. He's a professor of political science and a public policy analyst. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. We also do have Honorable Bafa Dan Agundi, who is a member of the Kano Security Council. I'm wearing several caps. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well today on the program. All right, Prof, let me start with you here. We've seen different comments, perspectives about security, the herders. We've seen different arguments from different parts of the country in terms of what is required, how should we approach it, who should be doing what. Some have suggested let everybody own guns, all sorts of suggestions to negotiating with bandits or not. So tell us, what sticks out for you?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, we must admit that we have a security challenge, putting it mildly in Nigeria. We have at the boundary, if not there already, of a security emergency in which people can no longer move around without fear of being kidnapped or killed. Farmers cannot go to their farms without the danger of being kidnapped or killed. There's a scenario of impunity in terms of the inability to apprehend those who commit crime. But quite honestly, I think that we need to moderate the narrative and to limit it to the context of crime. We have criminals, whether you call them herdsmen or whatever, who are kidnapping, raping, and murdering with impunity. But we do not have an ethnic conflict. And we have to be careful with the language. We do not have a conflict between Fulanis and Yorubas, between Igbos and Fulani. We have a conflict generated by Fulani herdsmen, particularly the renegades among them. And when we talk about Fulani herdsmen, again, we are stigmatizing herdsmen. We are not just stigmatizing Fulanis, we are stigmatizing herdsmen. There are thousands of herdsmen who are still operating in every part of Nigeria, who are peaceful people, the kind of peaceful, amiable Fulani that we grew up to know. I remember as a boy that we used to see Fulani people transform into marketers of herbs, particularly aphrodisiacs. The thing that stuck in my head is the marketing chant, Agumudadani, Araba Dedeni, that is selling herbs. These were Fulani herdsmen who bring in their rams, their cattle, dump them, and transform into marketers. That's the image of Fulani herdsmen that we have. But we now have renegades. We have imports of Fulani men from other countries who do not have the fellow feeling for Nigerians, who do not care to kill and maim. And we have to be looking at that.
So are you satisfied with how the state has responded to those groups of people?
Absolutely not. There's a failure around. There's a failure of leadership, failure of governors in those states, failures of traditional rulers who have not mobilized themselves to take up the issue. This thing should have been addressed a long time ago. Failure of security agencies. I don't know why they're doing it, but I can imagine that many of them are dealing with Fulani herdsmen who are so-called the perpetrators of this criminal behavior. They are looking towards the president to give them the go-ahead to do something. Maybe they are not getting it.
Okay.
So there's a need for the body language of the president to encourage them to deal. But you have to understand that in all these things there's emotion, there's psychology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, let me take you to Honorable Bafada Nagundi. I mean, you've been a member of the Kano State House of Assembly. You've served in different capacity in the state, and now a member of the Security Council. So when you see and hear all of this rhetoric, perspectives across board concerning particularly the herdsmen, the criminal elements, and the resultant effects, what sticks out, what comes to you in terms of the kind of understanding and impressions that is making the rounds about it?
Okay. My take here is generally will align with my discussion with the professor in failure of leadership. Because where there is failure in leadership, everything fails. When you look at the security situation in the country, it's pathetic. Many people, when you go to the north now, when you come to the north, take for example in Zamfara State, there was no Boko Haram in Zamfara State. All of a sudden, this bandit starts operating, kidnappers, taking ransom to so many people. Virtually, Zamfara is a no-go area now. Sokoto, all those axes. You relate all this problem with failure in leadership, failure in the security apparatus of the country. Whether you like it or not, that is the problem. If there is checks in the security network of the country, this wouldn't have been happening in all the country. All the part of the country, this part will have their own problem, another part will have their problem, another part will have their problem. And eventually what people had been agitating for original leadership will eventually be the alternative in the country. When you take, for example, the agitation in state security, police and state police, there's a lot of agitation on that. It has its own problem, the good side and the bad side. For instance now, when you allow the state governors to have their own state police, it is going to be on political affiliation. And whereby you have your security agencies affiliate with a political party, that's the end of it. So other groups will not have fairness in dealings with the security agencies in the state. And if you don't have your state, because there are some very responsible, serious governors that can do well with the state police, whereby the federal might will not be in your support. You are a whole governor, and the IG will just decide to tell you they have a problem with Mr. A or B in so state that is not an APC, or during the PDP government that is not a PDP governor. Then you continue to have a problem. I've seen a situation whereby we were in opposition during Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, Sardauna Kano, having so many challenges with the police at that time. He was in ANPP, and Konkoso, when he was the Minister of Defense, he was in PDP, and at the end of the day, the police will be in support of PDP no matter what, because the federal might who are supporting him on the ground. The security in any state or in the country should not be compromised, but the security situation is compromised at so many levels. Whoever is in power, the security will work along with him, which is not supposed to be so. They need to be independent, and had it been there independent, all this problem wouldn't have been happening now. This is what I believe.
Right. So, I mean, you began by saying you agree that this is failure of leadership. And, you know, sometimes when we have these conversations, we seems we identify the problem, but not as well as we ought to. So failure of leadership really for people can mean different things. It can mean, is it failure of family leadership, for example? Is it failure of federal government? Is it failure of state government? Because these institutions are there and they assert their powers when they ought to. I mean, we have the federal government saying, well, this is how we want things to be done when it comes to areas of, you know, exclusive legislative list and all that. You have the police also that comes out and say, well, we're in charge of this when they want to be. So when you say failure of leadership, really, so that we can identify this problem squarely and just know where the challenge is and go for it. What do you mean exactly? Are you saying the police has failed? Because you mentioned, you know, political affiliation and the police. Are you saying the federal government is keeping quiet? Because Prof here said that, well, the body language at the center also does a lot. So what exactly does this failure of leadership mean?
The failure is both in the federal government and at the state levels, because when a governor is supposed to be the chief security officer, in many instances it's not so. Take, for example, Borno. Though he's in an APP government and the center also APC government, so many things were happening in that state that the governor had to come out and say at different times that this is the problem he's facing with the security situation. One, you see some making money with it, which cannot be denied. Some top security leaders make money with what is happening in the country. When you come to state level, if there is directives from above, no matter what the governor will say, they will not work with the directives of the governor or the chief security officer. And in some instances, some of the governors neglect their security apparatus in the state. They don't help them as it's supposed to be so. So there is failure in both state governments and at the federal level. When you take President Buhari, he's so innocent that my take on his presidency is not supposed to be the kind of president we need at this time, because he's somebody who believes when he appoints you, you do the right thing, you do your work, which is supposed to be so. So there are no checks. The people don't do it that way. If I can give you an example why I believe there's a failure in leadership, I'm heading an agency which I revamped in just 1 year. I have inherited virtually a collapsed organization with only 3 vehicles, operational vehicles, only 3. And within 1 year, I revived that agency with about 53 vehicles now. And it's not a magic. It's not that we go to buy those vehicles. We go to agencies where their operational vehicles are broken down. We get them, repair them, put them back on the road. So I believe, like I said, leadership is everything. General Muhammadu Buhari is a very innocent leader that this country do not need at this time. He believes in doing things right. When he gives you an appointment, go and do your job. There has to be checks, and there are no checks now. So we need an iron hand in this country, somebody who will be up and doing. If I can go back to give you an example with the governor of Borno State, what he's doing, everybody in the country believes he's serious. He gives you a job, you go and checks on you. The security apparatus in the state, he checks on them. He reports to the president on the problems. He reports to the military leadership, the police leadership on every problem. As you see it every day, broadcasting the problems he's having. So that is leadership. Definitely in that state, you know what went wrong. You can't blame the governor. He's doing what he's supposed to do. So leadership is key to everything.
Well, let me bring this back to you, Prof. Over the years in this country, especially from the beginning of this Fourth Republic, even before, it would seem like, well, clearly it's what has happened. Insecurity issues have shape-shifted from the kidnappings in the Niger Delta to insurgency in the north to banditry to farmer herdsman clashes over the years to all of the, kind of insecurity issues that have crept into the southwest while we're addressing what one could call such seemingly other bigger, security challenges in other parts of the nation. So here we are. In terms of leadership, is it that we didn't see these things coming, or we just gave attention to other things? Because one would expect that if insecurity was going to be an issue, security agencies would have been able to see them ahead and nipped them in the bud before they became full-grown behemoths that they have become.
Yes, I think you have to understand that, like we've stated, it's a leadership problem. It is planning. It's about strategy. It's about intelligence, about vision. You have to have this. If you take the Southwest, this recent outburst of conflict over farmers and herdsmen, I mean, people had been raped, kidnapped, killed in the last year or so. And it would appear that our governors here were just watching. Our roads were being taken over gradually. Our forests were being taken over gradually. And you are watching until it became a crisis. You have to anticipate it. You have to plan towards it. And we have not done that. In some areas, when you're talking about banditry, for example, it is not, you are moving away from police work. You are moving away to the army, the military, because they are well organized, well armed, and maybe beyond the capacity of the police. So we need to look at our security strategies, but the security people need the political input. They need to be encouraged. They need to be ordered. They need to be given the resources, and they need to be given the charge. If you don't tell them to do something, they're not going to do it. It's their job, of course, to prevent crime automatically. But when crime is beyond policing, then the army is within the orbit of the federal presidency.
I'm wondering, Prof, before we take our guest in Abuja, I'm wondering how much authority the police need to do their job, which is law enforcement. For instance, the Penal Code, Section 342, clearly says, whoever enters into or upon property in the possession of another with the intent to commit an offense or to intimidate, insult, or annoy a person in possession of that property, unlawfully remains there with intent thereby to intimidate and all of that, is said to commit criminal trespass. This has happened so many times in terms of this farmer-herder, crashes that we have, heard over the years in our nation. Does the police need any extra political will to do that job?
Yes, the answer is yes. The police needs it. The police needs to be given the impression, not overt approval, that whatever they do will not be condemned. People have told stories of Fulani herdsmen being arrested and being released. If you are a police commissioner and you want to do your duties as it should be done, and somebody is telling you at a higher level not to do it, it's not a matter of law. It is a matter of political will, of your career. If you are an inspector, you are a DPO in the Barakwa or somewhere, and you keep arresting Fulani herdsmen, and somebody following day you see them back on the field, we won't go back to arrest them the second time. So the political approval is very important to police work. The police cannot just do what they like.
All right.
They can do it, but if at the end of the day they cannot see the result of their arrest, because they are not the one to prosecute, they're not the one to judge the cases, and the people you have arrested, you see them on the field, or you want to send out people, they are telling you don't go to that area, don't bother yourself, then you won't do your work. That is what is happening.
So, Justin, the law respects all persons. Rhetorical question there. But let's get to Abuja now. Makbe?
Yes, indeed. We have our guest here in the studio. Mr. Catch Ononuju is a member of the People's Democratic Party and also an economist. And you have been watching in the last couple of weeks, or perhaps you should say months now, matters in the country. What's your take on what's been going on in the last couple of weeks, perhaps we should say?
First, thank you for having me. I would say I'm very happy for the things that's been going on in the last couple of weeks and months. I, for 12 years, have sustained this attempt to inform the country that I believe going into democracy, the most existential security problem we will have will be this. And when it started, I started the monologue on television. And now, why I'm happy is that which I've been preaching is now vastly available for all to see. So those who thought I probably went over the bar have now seen that I was right all along. Why am I still happy again? Because in every community, when one or two persons see a danger, you don't solve it. It is when the entire community have now seen the danger that the town crier will go to town, sound the gong, and everybody will come, we'll put our heads together, organize, and find a way towards solving it. The crisis, it's very simple. It is a political reaction by a single ethnicity towards the availability of democracy. You could say in Ebonyi, it's the same crisis. In Oyo, it's the same crisis. In Kwara, it's the same. In Newman against the Bachama in Adamawa, it's the same thing. In Mambila against the Kaka, the Pansa, it's the same problem. You have it also against the TV, the Igede, the Agatu, and the Doma in Benue. The same problem.
Okay, so let me bring it. Sorry, Mr. Ononuju. Let me bring it home now to where we are right now, which is in Zamfara, where yesterday we saw the governor of Zamfara State receive bandits. We saw a number of them laying down their arms, and in turn, they're looking for amnesty. And we've seen that, another governor in the Northwest is saying, no, this is not the way to go. You cannot be giving people who are used to collecting huge amounts in ransom in kidnapping matters now, and hoping that they're going to take the pittance which you're offering them and hoping that they'll be repentant. That is not going to happen because this is a new business for them. So that's where we are right now in terms of what is happening in Zamfara. Is it something you also foresaw?
Yes. What you're talking about, it's the latest in the new set of uncoordinated remarks. You don't do amnesty for, as the president said, foreign bandits. President said that these are foreigners coming in from Libya, but I know these are foreigners coming in from Mali. They don't speak Hausa, they don't speak English, they speak Bambara and French. So they are not Nigerians. Are you going to do amnesty for those in Oyo, for those in Ondo, those in forests in So these are the same. These are Fulani militia bandits. They left. We started this problem in 2013 from Benue State when they left the Central African Republic. And when they came to Benue, Governor Suswan refused to cede land and they tried to kill him. Buhari became president. It continued. Kachi was the only Nigerian, not of Fulani descent, who sat at the table the day Bello Bodejo launched the Meyeti Allah Kotohore at the Nikon Luxury. Bello is my brother-in-law. And I continue to understand what was going on. And when he tried to apply for land from Goodluck Jonathan, Goodluck did not see it because under our laws, the Land Use Act puts the governors in charge of land. Today, Buhari came, he's looking for land. Nobody has given him. The bandits have now sought to take the laws into their hands, seeking land, and sometimes kidnapping to fund what they do, and sometimes getting money from government to augment whatever they don't have. Amnesty for who? For people from Mali or people from Central African Republic? Amnesty for who?
We will delve a little more into that when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Mr. Ononuju, an economist, is still with us in the studio. We're having another conversation on politics, which you do not want to delve into right now. But we were talking about amnesty, and you were saying amnesty for who precisely? Some people are even saying amnesty for what? Shouldn't that be the question? Amnesty for what precisely? Because is it that the state is incapable of putting this under control, or is it that they're incapable of forcing people to not just lay down their arms, but truly be sorry without giving any form of compensation whatsoever?
Well, the man who suggested amnesty displayed real ignorance of the problem. I really thought the man was far more informed about what's going on across the country. But by suggesting amnesty, I then saw the man didn't understand that we knew what was going on. He's just a latest entrant into this issue.
Well, you mean Sheikh Gumi?
Yes.
Okay.
Sheikh Gumi speaks in a way that illuminates his ignorance of our understanding and grasp of this crisis that has been ongoing since 2013.
Perhaps he's not letting off all that he knows, because I do know that in a separate interview, he said that these people that we see are just the face. That the people who he's more afraid of are their sponsors who live in the city, like you and I. And those are the people he fears can kill him. I think we were asking about whether or not he was afraid for his life. And he says, no, he's not afraid of these ones who are only errand boys.
Yes.
Or people who have a larger plan
living
in the city.
That is true.
What is the plan?
The plan is the agenda given and purposed for the Mieti Allah to drive. And those who protect and support Mieti Allah, like he talks, if you go to places like Katsina, there people in government actually work to protect these people. It's an ethnic game. And that's why I said
in Katsina?
Yes.
In Katsina, that they have also suffered from the bandits?
Don't forget this. Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kano, and Jigawa, these are core Hausa states. Core Hausa states. In Katsina, Zamfara, and Sokoto, what these people do is try to displace the Hausas for land. The land we refuse to give Buhari through his request for grazing reserve, for Ruga, for an attempt to consolidate land and water underground on surface. All those things have failed. So if you look at their template in Plateau, through history, they will fight against the Birom, and when you make peace, it's okay. You stay there, take that piece of land, you stay there, and they are not looking for money. They want land. Whether it is in Côte d'Ivoire, whether it is in Oyo, whether it is in Ondo, in Ebonyi, it is in Katsina, in Anka, Maru, Densadau, whether it is in Malele, whether it is in Bungudu, they are looking for land. Whether it is Sohombriningwari,
so you think
they are looking for land.
You think that this is all about a battle for land?
Finish.
Okay, let's take it to Lagos now and see if our other guests agree with you.
Well, yes, indeed. We'll let's bring Honorable Bapa on this matter. Well, you've heard the comments of the Sheikh and that of Catch. Do you share the same view? Or what do you think, whether or not should they be discussing and negotiating with bandits, or take them out completely, as El Rufai suggested?
Okay.
Well,
I've heard some part of it. I'm on phone, as I can't hear most of what they said, but I've cut along with you toward the tail end of what my brother in PDP is saying. Now, I didn't agree with him in terms of issue of amnesty, Because where a state failed to protect its citizens, the security agencies failed. And you find a situation whereby people like Gumi can find a way of reaching out to those bandits to negotiate and offer an amnesty for them. It's the best option. What can you do? There are two scenarios between the security agencies to fight these bandits, protect the lives and property of the people of that state involved. And if they cannot, how can you tell me somebody who is ready to find a way of contacting these bandits, ask them to drop their weapons, embrace peace, then you say it's not a good thing. To me, it's a very good thing. And in fact, if the security agencies will use those who drop their arms to take the amnesty, they use them to fight the rest. That would be the best way to fight the rest in the poorest who did not join the amnesty program. So it's even the best strategy, even if it is not meant to be the real thing. You need to carry people along. Let me give you an example. We had some motor parks that became so notorious in Kano, the extent to which armed robbers are there. They fought the police. They shot a mobile policeman when the previous administration wants to relocate them from where they are because they cause a lot of nuisance. When I came on board as head of Karota in Kano, I started with this negotiation for an amnesty of those criminals there. By the time I got some of them, who are the majority in terms of criminality, I used them to fight the rest. And the place now is a history. It's a popular place called Ado Bayero Bridge in Kano, built by a former Senator Lado. It's a popular place when you said get a Lado in Kano.
Well, but
amnesty in any way.
Okay, but no, you know that what worked in that scenario in the States may not necessarily work for the entire country. In fact, let's let you listen to the governor of Benue State because he spoke up on a similar matter not long ago. Just listen to this and let's get your response from it.
Of us. And the federal government, the presidency must act fast because time is going. From north, west, northeast, north central, southwest, southeast, south. There is general insecurity. And this is being prepared by herdsmen. I want to repeat again. I have made it a petition to the presidency and to all security agencies before, that if they want peace, Mayor Tiala must be arrested. These are people who have owned up. They have taken responsibility that they have killed, they maimed, they rape, and do all sorts of atrocities. And yet their leadership is in Abuja, and nobody is confronting them. And until these people are arrested, when I talk, I was being castigated. I was being vilified. Nothing bad that was not said against me. I am this and that. But the reality is here. It is not just happening to Benue State today. It is happening to the entire country. Why is the federal government being silent about this Fulani men? When will the federal government come out and criticize and arrest herdsmen carrying AK-47? When are they going to do that?
What do you think of that?
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, it's his own understanding. The security agencies are fighting these bandits, be it Fulani or whatever you call them, but they cannot find them the extent to which they crush them all. But we have seen so many scenarios. The Fulanis arrested, had Fulani herdsmen arrested from the forest, taken to court, some of them killed, some of them embracing the amnesty and what have you. But the reality is, I'm an APC man, but take it or leave it, there is general insecurity in the country that we cannot debate from saying. It's the fact. If you don't accept reality, you will never, you will never do what is right, what it takes for you to check all the excesses of the insecurity. So I believe there is general insecurity in the country. But sometimes people, if they want to talk, they put some sentiments, political sentiment, in their comments. You are an APC man? There's a problem in APC? Be courageous enough to say it. You are a PDP man? There's a problem in the country. Say it without affiliation of your political party. That is where you get corrections. So what the governor is saying, that the Mieti Allah is not arrested. Mieti Allah, they are not the criminals. Of course, they are trying to make the government understand where the problem is coming from. For instance, there are innocent Fulani herdsmen that are being killed all over the country. So when you kill somebody with his shapes,
you know, you're a former lawmaker.
What
so
do you expect of him if he... Yes.
You will understand this because my colleague just read previously about the penal code in the country. He cited section 342, which as a matter of fact says, whoever enters into or upon property in possession of another with intent to commit an offense or to intimidate, insult, or annoy a person in possession of that property or having lawfully entered into or upon that property unlawfully remains there, then of course the law should take its course. So some have said, look, this then means that anyone who trespasses on your property, even herders, the law should take its course. So why is it that we seem to be, the law enforcement agencies seem to be looking the other way when these kind of things happen? Because it appears as though even the law criminalizes those actions.
Well, it is because what the president has opted for, like what my brother in PDP said, was rejected. These people, they have their roots. They pass through those roots. In finding a way for grazing their animals, they end up entering into somebody's farm, which is wrong, which I don't believe in it. But by the time you get them land, that they will be contained within that place, put checks on them, all this thing will not be happening. So I am not saying for a Fulani herdsman to go into somebody's farm to feed his animal is the right thing to do. It's a trespass, it's criminal. But doing that, most of the routes that these cattle follow are no more. And they want to go around to feed their animals. What do you expect? All this problem will continue to happen. I don't believe in Fulani herdsmen taking their cattle to different part of the country because the situation has changed. But instead you combine them in one place, like what the state governor of Kano State is doing right now. He's doing he got a place for them in Kano. Anybody who is coming to Kano, herdman that is coming to Kano, will have a place to feed his animal. If all the state can do that, it's the best thing for us. But when you keep complaining, Mieti Allah do A, Mieti Allah do B, Mieti Allah, they are known, yes. But I have never heard when Mieti Allah leadership own up to any crime committed anywhere in the part of the country. But they are the persons of the Fulani herdsmen, and they have to speak up. When there's problem, they have to speak up.
Right.
And there are criminal herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen. Yes, there are. They do so many bad things within the country. I'm not deviating from that.
Okay,
so,
well, I think we should also... Right, Honorable, just a moment. I mean, let's get this clear. This conversation is about crime, whether you call it banditry, kidnapping, violent herdsmen, or what have you. It's essentially about crime. So let me bring this to Professor Tubajo, because I know you've been following the conversation keenly. So we've talked about different reasons, but we have laws. We've referenced the Penal Code. In fact, Section 27 of the Penal Code actually says, you know what, if you engage in kidnapping, you're meant to be sentenced to prison between 10 to 14 years. And there's this, the Robbery and Firearms Special Provisions Act that is, I mean, under that act, you can be punished up to the death penalty. So the point is, we have laws, essentially. And I recall that you said earlier on that the law enforcement agents need some form of political will, as it were, to do their job. So really, we've listened to the politicians. I mean, we've listened to the member of the APC, we've listened to the member of the PDP. But when you hear all their submissions and you look at the law, it is clear. What do you think?
Well, it's not about the law, really, in all respect. I think we must separate herdsmen and farmers' clash from kidnapping, raping, and murder. Those are purely criminal activities which the police ought to address. But if by any chance they are being committed by the same herdsmen who are clashing with farmers and having opportunistic criminal activities because they have AK-47, which other people don't have. And one of the exciting things that happened in the recent weeks was the Sultan of Sokoto saying that 82% of kidnappers arrested are Fulanis. So we must be able to address that. I do not support the idea that Miyetti Allah should be proscribed, as the governor suggested. It's a very valuable tool. What is happening is that it is not playing the duty of educating the herdsmen. If you have a cattle rearers association, then you must be able to be a buffer between that, the herdsmen, and the population where they operate. There must be a buffer between the herdsmen and the government. So we want to address the criminal element. We want to address the social management element. The criminal element cannot be compromised. A kidnapper is a kidnapper and should be dealt with like a kidnapper. I was very happy when I saw a video recently that trended in which some herdsmen who abandoned their cattle in the forest and jumped on the road to kidnap were apprehended and were being punished and beaten by soldiers who arrested them pretending to be passengers in a commercial vehicle. We need to deal with the criminal aspect. We need to separate the criminal Fulani. It's not all herdsmen that are criminals. I took a train, the new train from Ibadan to Lagos. I was looking at, I counted about 8 points at which cows were grazing in the morning, peacefully, along the route between Ibadan and Abeokuta alone. And so we must not criminalize herdsmen as either, just as we must not criminalize Fulanis. We have criminals. And the unfortunate thing is that the AK-47 is an aphrodisiac. Once you are carrying a gun, you are likely to be excited to use it. That is what we're having. They have guns unchallenged, and so they jump on the road. And gradually, they are beginning to see easy money, and they are going to continue to do it until they are apprehended. The Kaduna-Abuja road was the most notorious road in this country. But it's been addressed. They even formed a contingent of female soldiers to address it. So there's no doubt in my mind that we need to address the criminal aspect. The herdsmen-farmers clash, which is all over the country, we need to have a social management conference. We need to manage it by talking.
Yeah,
yes.
When we say herdsmen-farmers clash,
yes.
Now from your submissions, there are criminal elements. So should we still be calling them herdsmen or these are outright criminals and killers, abductors who are just out there to kill people, as opposed to the real headsmen.
I wouldn't be surprised if those who are killing have cows.
We shouldn't call them headsmen, should we?
Well, but you see, they are associated with cows. So
isn't that a facade?
Yes.
We should call them, they're terrorists, they're criminals.
They are criminals, yes.
The real headsmen are doing the legit businesses.
That's the way I see it. We must isolate them. And the only way to isolate them is to ensure that we first are able to anticipate what they're going to do, and we are going to apprehend them when they do it. That is where the governors have to be very active.
Okay.
Make sure they work in collaboration with their state security systems.
All right. Well, Mark, this is over to you now, but let me ask Mr. Ononuju this question. Clearly, these are economic crimes. That means there is an economic gap. Shouldn't we be focusing on bridging those economic gaps, Mr. Ononuju, as opposed to fighting the reason, or rather the fruits of those economic gaps?
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, because I have stressed that severally. Because of the activities of these criminals who pretend and use cattle to mask their true identity, we now have the problem of food security. So if you look at the country historically, everywhere where people use motorbikes to commit crime, and it's rampant, what governors do is stop the use of motorbike in that vicinity. Anywhere people use the tricycles to commit crime, people ban the use of tricycle because of that. Now that we have had an influx of these refugees, war-weary, from Mali and other places, and they now come and use cattle to camouflage and commit these crimes. The problem is not the police. No, our police are good enough to do their job. It is the absence of political will. It's just like you employ somebody and you tell him, hey, don't arrest anybody wearing red shirt or yellow shirt. Even when you have local people apprehend such person, bring them to the stations, the next thing they will say, release him. There's order from above. That happened even in Kankara at the beginning 2 years ago. When people were killed, we went to police station to go complain. The police refused to behave. What did we do? We used 3 corpses to block the road. At each end of the road, the Kankara Huntua road, we blocked it. The Kankara Kwatarakwachi road, we blocked it. And that was how we got attention from Abuja. It is not an APC-PDP thing. Please, I'm not speaking as a PDP man. Because the people being killed in Kaseda, Zamfara, and Sokoto voted for APC, and massively are APC people. It's an ethnic thing. Ethnic criminals from Mali and other countries are flooding here. The historical Fulani in Nigeria are not the people doing this. When I try speaking to some of them, they don't speak English, they don't speak Hausa, they speak Bambara and French. The gentleman sitting there and trying to give you political coloration is not doing the truth to Nigerians. The Hausas who get killed in Katsina voted for APC. So don't tell me it's a political party thing. It's not. It's not. It has to do with why do we have weakness from the top, protecting people of a certain ethnicity for their chosen kind of crime. Kidnapping, banditry, stealing, these things are crimes. They are not fighting for anybody's good. These are just criminals who cannot fit into society normally.
There is a differentiation which Professor Osubajo brought on board, which he said there is farmer-herdsman crisis. That is a separate one. And then you also have the opportunistic crimes attached to it. As a result of the kidnappings and ransom that have been paid, I think the governor of Kaduna State made reference to that, these people are now getting used to easy money. And even for them to settle down with their cattle breeding is now going to be a problem, so to speak. How do we begin to disentangle? I think that's what I'm looking for. Disentangle these different strands which are, tugging at the heart of unity in this country. So, for instance, in the north, when you have what we have in terms of when people are their villages are raided, lives are lost, the people are killed, villages are sometimes burned. We lump it under banditry. When it comes down south, it's given a different coloration. What we have are Fulani herdsmen, or farmer herders crisis, so to speak. How do we begin to say, it looks like this same thing is what we are all experiencing as a country?
It is.
Can we muster what we need to band together to push those people out of the country?
Well, let me help you. 2 years ago, the former army chief, Buratai, got journalists together and pressed them not to attach the ethnic origins of the criminals, that they should just call it bandits. I said, no. I got very angry. I said, what bandits? So I came on television, and every time I called the bandit, I said, Fulani bandits, Fulani militia. Because whether you like it or not, these same people are the ones in charge of Boko Haram. They are the same people in charge of the banditry. They are the same people in charge of the herdsmen militia. The problem we have is the absence of political will at the top. And that's why most of us blame the presidency for not having the will to allow the service chiefs do their jobs. If you ask me, you cannot sue Buhari or the criminals without attaching the service chiefs, because they committed treason. Treason is in two types. Either you levy war against the state, or you provide advantage for those who levy war against the state. So for staying hands and allowing that violence to rampage the country, I find the service chiefs culpable in this business. So for me, this is a big organized criminality. Allow the police and the security services to do their job. They know how to do their job. The people I work with in the far north are not PDP people. Most of them are APC people. But because I grew there as a child, I said I would not keep quiet. And Hausas are being killed, dispossessed of their land in an ethnic cleansing fashion. I would provide voice for those who suffer.
Well, let's take a break at this point, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our discussions. Please stay with us. Our closing moments now with Mr. Kachin Onuju, who is an economist. Well, I really don't want to talk about political parties here, but
no. The political parties have failed the country.
Well, so let us bring it home now. What are your closing comments, and how do you think we can, get out of this crisis?
Simple. President Buhari should become president of Nigeria for once. Embrace Wole Soyinka's suggestions. There's nothing big about it. Speak to the country. Tell us, this problem exists. Tell us you've heard from leaders. You've heard what the Sultan said. Tell them that you've heard, and you will pray that governors will listen to the examples and suggestions by Governor Ganduje. This is not rocket science.
For those who are already being granted amnesty, what should be done about them?
Amnesty. Nobody is holding anybody. So far, anybody arrested are released. That's been amnesty. The people telling you about amnesty have not told you what they really have in mind. They are looking for ways to continue to dash them money so that the periodic organized kidnappings that are staged and then used as a ploy to give them money will be removed, and then it will now be done normally on a long term. This is not the game. Let us be honest about the crisis. It's a refugee crisis. We had the same refugee crisis in 1974. And when we had that crisis in 1974, the government told us there is a refugee crisis in Lebanon when Israel occupied East Lebanon. We brought the Lebanese here, housed them in Apapa, quarter some of them in Kano. Let's be dishonest. Or let Buhari and Goodluck work well with the leaders in West Africa, so that you can solve the Malian crisis and keep the refugees back home. If you don't, the Malian crisis will continue to become like a dam. When the dam bursts, the thing will come here. Now look at them. They're going to Ibadan, going to places in Ondo to seize land. What amnesty will such people ask for? In Ebonyi. Tell me now, in Gembu, in Taraba, in Benue State, are they looking for amnesty? No, they're looking for land. But because Buhari cannot find a polite way to get land for them, this crisis persists.
Well, your submissions. We have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mr. Catch Ononuju is an economist. And we'll throw it now back to Chamberlain in Lagos.
Thank you.
All right, indeed. Well, while we hang on for Mr. Wale Fakwamoda, gentlemen, let's get your concluding comments as well. Prof, you first. Yes, Prof, your concluding comments on what you think we should be doing moving forward.
Well, first and foremost, we should be careful about the narrative. What is happening is not an ethnic conflict. It's not Fulani, Yoruba, Fulani, Igbo. We're talking about 85% of Fulanis are urban dwellers. So we're talking about the 10% who are herdsmen. So they do not represent the Fulanis. We must also we must be careful about the narrative of North-South. I see that the governors and some opportunistic politicians are beginning to put it that way, that the North will not accept it. It's not the North, it's about the Fulani herdsmen. There are 371 tribes in Nigeria. 315 of them are in the North. So the Fulani they are not the North. They don't become the North, the Fulani herdsmen. So we have to be careful about narrative that will lead us into escalation of a conflict that can be managed. We need our president, the president of Nigeria, President Buhari, is the most powerful Fulani man in the world. He has to work with the most influential Fulani man, the Sultan, and call these people to order. Mietiala should be an agent of education for Fulani herdsmen on how to manage their herds in foreign lands. We must not deceive ourselves that they will not come. They will come. But we need those two people to take the lead.
All right.
We need a national conference, if it's necessary, to look at how to manage this thing. The Fulanis need grazing land for now. As the governor of Kano State, ultimately, and I read the communique of the governors of the North, and they are saying that this open grazing is not the way to go.
All right, Prof.
Go to ranching. So we need to move in that direction.
All right, Mr. Femi Otubanjo is a professor of political science and the public policy analyst. Thank you for your perspectives. So let's hand then to Honorable Bapa. Go ahead and give us your concluding thoughts.
Thank you. Very sorry, I've missed most part of your discussion. The mic went off, and I need to align myself with what the two learned people said. However, I believe the federal government needs to do more. The state governments needs to do more in finding solution to the country. The security situation in the country is so pathetic that no way you can find any way of maneuvering to say all is well. There's no way. We are in a problem, and President Muhammadu Buhari needs to stand up and do more. He should not just think he's a clean person, he's doing the right thing for appointing you and allow you to work. He is supposed to be, this is supposed to be so in a developed country. But country like Nigeria, there is need to be serious checks in anybody you appoint. Check on him. We believe in you. We believe in your cleanness, and I'm sure when it's not very late, it's somehow late, but not very late, things can be corrected. So let us put hands together and correct the situation, the security situation in the country and the economic situation, though it's all over the world. But we can do more, I believe. Thank you.
Oh, all right, then, Honorable Bapa Dan Agundi, member, Kano State Security Council, and a former member of the Kano State House of Assembly. Thank you very much indeed for your perspective today.